like to share some ideas with you today, and by doing that, by asking 3 questions. First question is what really happened with the 2008 crisis. The second question I would like to ask is, are we moving from an office economy to a we economy? And the third question is, why do we have to reinvent the concept of competition? But first, let me start by telling you a story. It's a story about Valerie. She's 12 years old, and it's the year 2040, and she's visiting her grandfather. Valerie and her mother, they live in Norway because it's too hot in Holland, and prices of the houses are too expensive because half of the Netherlands is underwater. So they came by sailing boat because it's prohibited to use fossil fuels. And on the way home to the house of the grandfather asked Valerie, well, how are you doing in school, and how did your first speaking engagement went? Well, Valerie said it was about climate change, and it went very well, but I had some questions afterwards, and my teacher and also my mother couldn't answer those questions. Well, maybe I can answer those questions, grandfather said with a big smile. Well, Valerie said, it's a little bit awkward, because I don't know how to put it nicely, so I just put it out, and she became very angry, and she said, what were you thinking, grandfather, 40 years ago? Couldn't you see that temperature was rising? Couldn't you see that polar caps were melting and glaciers were disappearing? Why didn't you do anything about climate change? Why didn't you start organizing a sustainable prosperity? At that moment, grandfather wasn't smiling anymore. It's a story from the first page of my first novel. It's a management novel about organizing, you could say, a Weconomy. I call it community economy, but it's the same as Weconomy. And it's a fiction story. It's a novel, but it could be real. It could be real. So let me also ask you a question. Who would, by raising your hand, who would give up the last year of his life to come back for a month in the year 2165? I would surely do, just to see if we manage to clean up the mess we made. So I just want to come back. This is my daughter. She's 10 months old, and hopefully one day she also wants to have children. So that would be my grandchildren. And with some luck or bad luck, that depends on the choices we make now, my grandchildren will die in 2165. And with the choices we make now, we define the world they're going to live in. And I'm sure if we don't change the system, the Earth will look like this in 2165. Why? Because the system we're using now is based on ongoing economic growth. The system, our life, is depending on ongoing economic growth. And we all know that's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. It's a very easy theory. Any beer drinker can understand. Colin Campbell told us this. The Earth, he said, is like a glass of beer. It starts full and ends empty. And the faster you drink it, the quicker it's empty. It's very easy. So the question is, are we in a transition point, and was 2008 a transform? Are we in a transforming from a society that is aimed at producing more prosperity to a society that is aimed at producing a sustainable prosperity? That's the question. And I think, maybe I believe, maybe I hope that 2008 was a turning point, that we came from a society, the Industrial Revolution. Its goal was to produce more prosperity. Beautiful machine, we six-folded our prosperity in the last 200 years. But it's not sustainable, as I told you. So the question is, was 2008 a turning point? And I think it was. And the question is, why was it a turning point? Maybe you heard of the law of Baumol, or the disease of Baumol, but William Baumol, already in 1966, explained what happened in 2008. It was a financial problem, but it was a debt problem. What did we do? We paid our prosperity with money we lent from our children. And to understand Baumol's disease, you have to understand the relation between productivity and prosperity. To rise the living standard in a country depends on the possibility of a country to raise the output per worker. So that's productivity. There's a one-on-one relation between productivity and prosperity. So how does it go? Baumol's law. First, we were a farmer. 100 years ago, 90% were working on agriculture. And the farmer could become more productive, not only because mechanization, but also the farmer could go to the factory. Then the factory worker could become more productive, not only by mechanization, but the factory worker could go to the office. 70% of the people in Holland are working in offices now. And that's where the problem is. The problem is, and that's what Baumol described in his law, the cost of our prosperity, that is cost for education, for healthcare, for safety, the costs are growing much more than productivity improvement allows. So it's good to raise wages if your productivity grows. But the productivity in barrel number 3 is under 1% per year, while our costs raise 4-5% every year. Cost of healthcare, cost of safety, etc. So we really have to solve that problem, and we can do that by making the office worker more productive. But if the office worker can go anywhere, he won't become more productive. So we need to establish a new barrel, and we can call it the Weconomy, we can call it community economy. So the real question is, how do we cure Baumol's disease? By making the office worker more productive and using the surplus time for sustainability. So the next question would be, how would we organize a Weconomy? What's important? Well, sharing will be important. But I think what's most important in creating an economy is looking at the concept of competition. So in every fundamental transaction in our modern history, philosophy plays an important role. And philosophy is about asking the right questions. And I think an important question now would be who we are and what do we want? Or more specific, what is my relationship to myself or to you? Or what's my relationship to tools we use, like Google? Does Google make us more stupid or not? But I think most important is our relationship to our future. And what's our future? Apart from time ahead of us. The future is where our children live. That's future. And before future starts, we have to do something. So you can be in competition with people from the same generation, but you can also be in competition with the future. So before future starts, we need to do something. So we have to reinvent the concept of competition. It's very limited and unwise to think that we are in competition with people from the same generation. That's very limited. You can also be in competition with the future. So you could see that as your enemy. Before future starts, the future of our children, we need to organize a more sustainable prosperity. And we need to do that with a lot of urgency. So we can't wait. It's not in the interest of our children, and especially not our grandchildren, to think that the earth is a collection of different countries who are fighting over each other for limited resources. That's not very clever to do. So the question is, why is the value of a human being in Holland more valuable than a human being in Africa or a human being in the future? So we have to think about what is competition, with whom or what are we in competition. And it's a society that's only living now and here is very selfish. So it's not in the interest of our children that we only think here and now. It's also not clever when you look at more evolutionary point of view. The White House reported that for every decade we wait with climate control, the costs will rise 40%. So why would you put your saving money in a fund for your pension? It's not wise, because over 10 years it costs us 40% more for climate control. So if you want to have dry feet, if you want to breathe clean air, the cost will rise 40% every decade we wait. Another example, we buy a lot of stuff we don't need. In America it's 1,200 billion a year. So that's like a lion who's killing a prey if it's not hungry. An animal doesn't do that. Even not if the prey comes with 50% discount, but we humans, we do it. So we have to reinvent our relationship to ourselves, because we buy stuff with money we don't have to impress people on Facebook we even don't know and sometimes even don't like. So it's really reinvent with whom you are in competition with yourself, with others in this generation, or are we in competition with the future? And I think we are in competition with the future. Let me end with the last page of my novel. It's a page where Miles, and Miles is the grandfather of Valerie, where Miles finally understands the dream he had lately. And in that dream, a voice asked him, what if the world was your company? Miles is an entrepreneur, he has his own company. What if the world was your company? How would you organize it? And the idea is, suppose your company is the world and you have only one competitor. And the competitor is the future. So before the future starts, you have to organize something. How would you do that? That's the question. Okay, I really believe that 2008 was a turning point, a point where we went from a society that was aimed at producing more prosperity to a society that was aimed at a sustainable prosperity. And we're on a journey. I think we're on a journey from the Industrial Revolution to a more society that's aimed at sustainable prosperity. And for that journey, we really need leadership. Okay, we need sharing, we need Weconomy, but especially we need strong leadership. We need pioneers, and we need people with courage. And as Meg Cabot put it in her book, courage is not the absence of fear, but the judgment that something else is more important than fear. The brave may not live forever, but the cautious ones do not live at all. From now on, you are traveling the road between who you think you are and who you can be. And the key, and I think she meant the key to happiness is to allow yourself to make the journey. So I hope you all will be joining our journey towards a more sustainable prosperity, not for us, but for our children. Thank you very much.